What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla and all these different tickers, and break down some very important levels to be watched for as we approach today. I'm also going to talk about the CPI report that just came out and how this could affect the market going into the next couple of hours. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Now, this offer ends in just 3 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market so far. So, we just had the CPI numbers that came out, and they ended up being as expected overall. Core inflation month over month was 0.3%, which is as expected. That's what we were expecting from yesterday. Core CPI year over year was 4.1%, which is as expected, aligning with the expectations perfectly. Inflation month over month was 0.4%, which is close to expectations, a little bit on the hotter end, but still fine. And inflation year over year was 3.7%, which is once again as expected. So all of these numbers are quite decent so far. Initial jobless claims were about 209,000, which is very close to what the forecast and consensus were. So this is also aligning with the expectations. Pretty much everything aligned with expectations, which could be ultimately be decent for the markets. Now, we have another report coming out later on during the day. We'll talk about that later. We also have Bostic giving a speech later on. So we have one more Fed speaker. And that's pretty much it for today. Nothing else that's too crazy. And besides that, we have Friday. Also, we have more data coming out for Friday, but that's pretty much it for CPI. It's been pretty decent, which could be, very interesting for the markets. Now we're going to be looking at some more data. So once again, CPI was decent. We're starting to see the top U.S. diplomats landing in Israel so far as the situation is continuing to just escalate. On top of that, the House Republicans now have a new GOP nominated majority leader. His name is Steve Scalise. So good for them. And on top of all of this, high rates are here to stay, according to reports, as the FOMC minutes have showed us that most of the Fed officials want to keep rates high for an extended period of time. And the UAW is once again continuing its strikes against Ford, as we're seeing more and more employees being added. Now, for Tesla, I didn't see any new news relative to what I was talking about yesterday, but there was I meant like no like significant new pieces of news that came out over the last like 12 hours, but I did see this that came out. The Cybertruck stainless steel supplier has been revealed. It's going to be this right here. I think it's pronounced Oto Kumpo. Apologize if I said that wrong, but that being said, now let's talk about the charts. How are things looking? So, as far as the market goes, something very interesting happened. So, basically, the market was just pumping like crazy, approaching the CPI event, and it basically priced everything in beforehand. But now that CPI has come out, the market has pulled back just a bit, which is completely normal, nothing like totally out of the ordinary. I'm going to be watching to see where the buyers start to step in because I do believe the market will bounce. But as of right now, we're starting to downtrend a little bit. There could be more downside coming. So watch and see where the market tries to base. And then we should see a bounce later on, most likely. That's like the direction I'm leaning towards, but it depends on where these market makers and etc. try to grab their liquidity. So we're going to be watching that very, very carefully for today. Now, that being said, I think it's very important to be looking at our indicators and to break down very key levels on Tesla SPY and all these tickers. That's what I'm going to do in this video. So for Tesla, we're currently testing this 262 support zone. If we do break a little lower, you're going to be watching the support right here at 260, and we actually have a confluence of support right here. We have this channel. You guys can see this channel right here that Tesla's been in. This blue trend line is acting as its support. So we have that support, plus we have the 260 historical support. If Tesla comes down like this, we could try to bounce off there and start pushing back up. To turn bullish, you want to see it make its way back up above 265 and start pushing from there. So if it does try to like bounce from the very low 260s, we could be watching 265 plus for the bounce. If it breaks below this trend line, then it could come down to like 257 and then make an attempt to bounce back to 262. But the most likely possibility based off this trend would be Tesla kind of like either bouncing or retracing just a little bit more, and this confluence of support could try to hold Tesla up for a push back up towards these levels. And we could see Tesla try to get back above 265 plus. If 265 breaks, then maybe 268, but we need to see it hold 265 first. So if this level holds, we could see 268 coming next, followed by even higher levels to like 270 plus. So I think that this is the most probable move, a little drop and a bounce. It may be, excuse me, it may be a little bit like choppy, a little bit tricky in the very beginning. And watch the support to see if we bounce off here. Now, if we don't bounce off here, we could drop a little lower before the bounce comes. So this is like another possibility. But I find it a little bit less likely Tesla's going to break below 260 over this, but once again, it's always a possibility. So watch for a little drop and like a bounce, just like this, as being one of the most probable moves for Tesla, as buyers may still continue to step in. For SPY, we're going to be watching our next liquidity zone. So SPY is currently sinking just a little bit, but we're going to be watching this channel right here, this 436.4 area. If we lose this, watch 435 as key support. If that fails, let's watch 433. So one of these is where we should see buyers stepping in. They could step in right here in this 436 area and start pushing it back towards 438.5 plus. To turn bullish, you want to see SPY break and hold 438.5, and this thing can start pushing for 440. Before that happens, we could sneak a little bit, so watch support right here in the very mid 436s. If that fails, watch 435, then 433, and we should bounce somewhere along those lines, okay? So watch those supports very carefully. The most significant support is going to be this zone right here. It's 433 area. The buyers should be stepping in soon. So watch for a little drop and bounce on SPY. For the QQQs, the same thing basically. We're going to be testing this channel right here. We're still basically very, very close to it. And we're going to be watching to see if the buyers could step in just about here. So we have support at 371.5. If that fails, let's watch 370 as key support and then 368. We should try to bounce somewhere around here. If we break below 368, then this could turn bearish. We can see the market start sinking even lower. So watch that very carefully. But the numbers, the data has been aligning with expectations, so it's unlikely the market's just going to crash extremely hard unless it's like very manipulated or something else happens. So watch for it to retrace a little bit. We may see some buyers stepping in like right here to push the QQQ back above 372. And if it breaks 372, watch 374 to 375 as resistance. The most likely possibilities we either bounce from here and start pushing for 372 plus, or we drop a little bit more towards like 370s lower levels, and then we make an attempt to bounce later on. Those are the two most probable outcomes, so watch it very carefully to see if that ends up being the case. For Nvidia, this has potential to kind of reject a little bit here. So it could come down towards this 465 area. We'll see if buyers step in like right here. If it fails, watch 461, and that's where buyers could attempt to step in. So those are some very important levels. But if we break below all of those levels, then we could turn a lot more bearish, and that's when this thing could start like coming down to fill this gap at 458 and levels just like that. So we're going to be watching this very carefully to see where this thing ends up bouncing, but there's likely going to be a drop coming. So watch for the drop on Nvidia before this thing attempts to bounce. And then depending on where we bounce, we're going to be watching the next, key level of resistance, whether it's 465 or if it ends up being all the way up here at 471. If we break above 471, then 474 is the next level to watch for. So we're going to be watching those very carefully. On Apple stock, it's the same thing. This thing could, sink a little bit more towards this trend line. So this like mid 179 area could be tested. But if the buyers step in just like how they have been at this trend line, Apple could bounce and start pushing towards this 182 area. If we break and hold 180, watch 182.5, which is where we have the unfilled gap on Apple. There may be an attempt to fill this gap, so watch it carefully. But if we end up failing to get that bounce, we fail to break and hold 180, right? We're going to be watching this trend line right here. I'm going to make this yellow. If this breaks, we could see Apple sink towards 178 again, and that could slow the market down even more. So watch for a potential drop. It could be happening if we do break below this, and we're already starting to drop a little bit. So we're going to be watching this support to see if we bounce off here or if we drop a little bit lower and then we get the bounce. That's going to be very, very key. So watch these levels very carefully and watch this 180 zone as a very, very key level to see if we could hold it or not. All right, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Watch for a potential drop in the markets that's coming, and there should be buyers stepping in later on. Tesla's still starting to trade a little sideways, so we will see where this thing ends up heading towards. But for now, that's pretty much it for this video. So I just want to thank every single one of you for listening. Have a great day and watch these levels very carefully, and we will see what happens as time goes on. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and peace out.